Welcome to Regola's tutorial on how to validate an FC BIM model. As some of you may already be aware of how the platform works, this is the homepage where you have some shortcuts to the other sections of the platform. For those of you who do not know the platform yet, please feel free to look at our other tutorials, especially the overview one that will explain to you how this tool works. Now, what we are looking at today is how to validate an IFC BIM model, provided that you have already created a specification with some rules and uploaded your BIM model on the platform. So I will go to the My Validations tab, where I have two sections of this tab. The first section, meaning the top section, is the one where I can actually produce my reports, so my validation report, whereas the bottom side or section of the page is where I have my validation reports archive. Now, to validate a BIM model, what you need in order are a specification, and if you do not have one, you can be redirected directly to the My Specifications tab, where you can create your own specification. In this case, I do have a specification, and I can select it from the bottom-down menu. In particular, I will look at a specification that checks groups in a model. In particular, the specification allows me to check that the model has the groups that I want and that these groups are made of the objects that I want. And then I have to select an IFC model, of course, because this is the model that I want to check. In particular, I will select my telecom systems model. This is a model that I have previously uploaded through the My File section, which is why I can find it here on the bottom-down menu. I can optionally give my report a title. Now, let's say that I will give my report a telecom grouping report title, and I can choose to let the platform continue checking further steps of one of the rules contained in a specification once one of the steps fails or not. In particular, please keep in mind that many rules that compile the specification are made of steps. So if I keep this option selected, continue after failed steps, this means that the platform keeps checking the model against the rule, even when maybe the second or third step of the rule fails. If I deselect it, of course, the opposite happens. So the platform will stop checking the model against that rule whenever one step of that rule fails. I will keep the option for my case, and then I will click on the Validate button, which is the one that allows the platform to actually work the validation process using the specification and the model. It takes a couple of seconds, and of course, the heavier is the model and the more time the platform needs. In this case, you will find, as soon as it is done, the report right under the archive section, let's say, where you have some metadata regarding the report, such as the execution date, the report title, the specification title, meaning the title of the specification that was used to check the model, the name of the model, and then some other metadata, like, for example, if the report has been shared, in this case, this green icon appears, or the status of the report. Now, of course, in the archive section, you can somehow sort your reports depending on this information, okay? Now, please keep in mind that this validation status symbol most of the time it will tell you that the validation failed because it becomes a green check only when the validation is 100% passed. Meaning that if I want to look at my report, I can do this through a quick view. In this case, let's look at the results to understand the symbol. This result, and then in a second I will tell you what the report is comprised of, but let's just look at the result. It tells you that there is a 50% passed. It's less than 100%, and this is why I have this yellow symbol for failure, okay? But what it means is that out of two rules that I have in my specification against which I have checked my model, only one of them passed. Now, the fact that this report could be let's say, could demonstrate a positive outcome or a negative outcome of the validation really depends on the percentage of, let's say, discretion that the validator has. So, for example, if I am a validator and I know that the model needs to have 80% of the rules passed, then of course this is a failure. Okay, but if for me the 50% pass is sufficient to give a positive outcome to the validation, so it really depends on my process, then this report has a positive outcome. Now let's look at the information that is contained in the report. Of course, you have the report title on top. Then you have the report metadata, so description of the specification used, the FC model name, the execution date. And then you have some metadata regarding the model, creation date, author of the model, the organization that produced the model, the originating system, the IFC version of the model, etc. Then, of course, you have the results tab, and then you have actually details regarding each rule contained in the specification. In this case, my specification contained 2 rules. The first one checks that mandatory objects are present in the groups inside the model. So this model has some groups from a list I have provided in the specification, and these groups are made of some mandatory objects. And then the second rule checks that the groups are made exactly by the requested objects. So there is also not only a check against the name of the object that makes the group, but also the quantity. Now, if I look at the details of these rules, which is the failed rule, you can see that the first 2 steps passed, and these first 2 steps were basically some higher level steps that checked that in the model I have the groups requested, and that these groups are of the type that I requested. And then the third step checks that the group is made exactly by a number that I have specified between a minimum and a maximum of a specific object of a specific type. Now, in this case, it tells me that my group, which is my IFC asset impianto radiomobile of name, with name impianto radiomobile 01, and with ID 18 in the file and GoID specified here, actually has one object, which is IFC system stazione radio base, which was not requested. So this group has an object that is not in the list of the requested objects. And this is why the rule failed. Okay, now what you can do with this report is a couple of things. You can download the report directly from here. Once the report has been created, you can either have a quick view from the I button, or you can click on the menu on the right and still have the view option together with the share option and the delete option. Now, the share option works similar to the specification share option, meaning that if you click on it, you can create a link to share with whomever you want within or without your organization. Whereas if you delete a report, you are permanently deleting the report from the platform, and it's not retrievable anymore. Now, this ends the tutorial on how to create a validation report, so how to validate a BIM model. If you want to look at more of our tutorials, you can also go directly from the platform to our tutorial webpage. It redirects you to our Academy page on our official website. In addition, you can look at our tutorial by following us on through our YouTube channel, or by looking at some news that we will post every once in a while on our LinkedIn page.